Hello and welcome back to Crypto Novus, where newbies become masters. My name is Chris Brown and I'm the host of the channel. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours with the cryptocurrency market, and in this video what we're going to do is take a look at the death cross that occurred on the 14th of January. Take a look up, find out a little bit about what is a death cross, also what is a golden cross, take a look at the impacts of this most recent death cross to the price of the cryptocurrency market, and why for some this death cross was in fact a big loss, but for others it was big profits. So stay tuned. We'll look forward to seeing you in the video. Welcome back and let's get started. This is an article that was in Business Insider. It came out back in November 19th of 2021, and it talks about what a golden cross is, what a death cross is, and why it matters to investors. So let's take a quick look at it and go and see what the definitions really are. So here's what a golden cross is. A golden cross occurs when a short-term moving average of an asset crosses a long-term moving average. And what we're looking at here more specifically is when the 50 moving average crosses the 200 moving average. This has been traditionally what has been, utilized within the various markets. And so a death cross, we'll scroll down here, is quite frankly just the opposite. If a golden cross is when a short-term moving average crosses a long-term, well, a death cross basically is just the opposite. And where a golden cross indicates movement on the upside for a particular asset, a death cross basically is a move to the downside. And it's an indicator that there's a downward trend coming. So now let's take a look at TradingView and take a look at where we're at right now. So as I'm doing this video, Bitcoin has kind of shot back up to 35,000. We're taking a look here. The golden line is the 200 moving average. The dark blue line is the 50 moving average. And we can kind of see here also what's happening with the RSI. I'm going to switch to the 1 hour. And what has recently happened basically since the 14th. So this is January 20th here. Let's zoom back a little bit. This death cross basically occurred right around the 14th. We're seeing here at the 1 hour, it's showing more around the 12th, but it was a little bit later than that on the daily candlesticks. But back here it was around 44,000 and it started to make its way down. And then on the 20th is when it started to plunge. Now this really shouldn't be a shocker. And to traders, it really isn't. For those that trade cryptocurrency and other assets, they were anticipating this. But for individuals who are new to the market, this may have caught them off guard. Now, when Bitcoin actually took this plunge, it has actually gone all the way down. We can see a wick all the way down to just under $34,000. And at that same time, the RSI had dropped all the way down to 11. So this was clearly a moment of buying for some. For others, it probably just scared people to death, hence the term death cross. And so let's zoom back out a little bit back to the daily candlesticks and take a look at what has really happened with Bitcoin in the most recent history when it comes to these death crosses. So let's take a step back and take a look at what Bitcoin's price action was like back in April when it had peaked at a little under $65,000. So that occurred around April 13th. And you can see that at that time, the 50, which is the blue line, was well above the 200, which is this gold line here. But as the price of Bitcoin started to drop back down, of course, the 50 moving average started to drop as well. Well, it basically crossed. There was a death cross back around June 19th of 2021, which is, back in the summer, when Bitcoin had really come down to just under the $40,000 level and actually had dropped all the way down to just under 30. And we can see that this occurred after this long run that started back in October of 2020. From that death cross, though, it did kind of bottom out at around just under the 30,000 level, and then it started to climb back up to where it peaked in November at 69,000. Well, since then, it's been progressing up downward, if you will. And again, the 50 moving average was coming down. You can kind of see the sharpness of this line. I mean, it kind of plateaued for a little bit because Bitcoin came down, then it came back up. In this case, it didn't quite, it came down again, similar to what happened back in April and May, but it didn't pop up quite as much. I mean, back then, when it popped back up, it came back up to almost the $60,000 level. Here in this case, it saw a lot of resistance. Well, actually, it came back to the same level. I take that back. And then it started its way back down. So it's really almost kind of repeating itself. So the question on the table is about how long will this happen? Because when the death cross happened the last time, there was some horizontal movement. It did test this level of support before it rallied back up. So the other thing I want to take a look at is let's take a look at how long from the peak to the death cross, how many days transpired or how many candlesticks transpired from the peak to the cross, and same thing here back in November. How many days have gone by? Come over here to about where the death cross is. So that's about 67 days or 67 bars. I'm going to do the same thing over here, and let's take a look and see what happened from the 69,000 level. About 66. So essentially, it's the same time frame. Now, I wasn't tracking this that closely, but I'm really kind of surprised. So the next question is, and now that this death cross has occurred, will history kind of repeat itself again? And will Bitcoin begin to rally back up? I mean, I don't think this is by any means an indication that we're in a bear market. I still think we're in a bull market, and I think Bitcoin will rally back up. I want to see when exactly where that might occur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at, and I want to see how long did it take from the golden cross in the past, back in June, to when it bottomed out. How many days transpired then? It's about 31 bars or 31 days. So let's see where that would put us if the same thing were to occur. So this happened on the 14th of January, and if we go out 31 days, that puts us basically at February 14th. So around Valentine's Day, we should see Bitcoin bottoming out if history repeats itself and begin to rally back up. It could rally back up just to simply 70,000, or it could rally beyond that. But that's good. I would anticipate some horizontal movement during the next 3 to 4 weeks for Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency market. Now, what I said before is that for some people, this experience was devastating, and it in fact was the death, and there were some losses, and those that are not supportive of the cryptocurrency market, it kind of reinforced that, hey, Bitcoin doesn't have any stability, blah, blah, blah. But for others, it was certainly a moment of profit. If you timed this right and you were studying and you did your sell and your buyback at the right time. So let's kind of jump in to see exactly what that looks like. Before I do that, there's one other thing I want to take note of. Right now, Bitcoin's price at around 35,000. If it stays here, it is essentially finding support on where it was finding resistance back in the month of July. If you look right through here, there was a lot of resistance at this level, hence why it went back down and found support where it had wicked down to the just below $30,000 level. I think that's something to watch right now. Will it break down below this I'm going to call it level of support right now because of all the resistance here, and go down to 30 before it rallies back up. Another thing that helps us to see this is the volume profile. So these are the bars that I've put up here on the right hand side. And you can see, again, there's a lot of volume of buying and selling at this $35,000 level. It drops off considerably when you go below 30. So when you're down here in 28 and 29. So if it comes back down to the 30 and goes below 30, it could drop back down to 23 because there's not a lot of volume of activity or resistance in this range right here. Something to take notice and to watch. The other thing in terms of rallying back up, it's going to have a lot of pressure at this, $47,000 and $49,000 level, and then it'll get a lot of resistance again at the 56. If it can pass by this 47 to 49 and then past the 57, you can see there's not a lot of resistance and volume activity to get back up to the $70,000 level. Let's go and take a look at why this was a moment of profitability for some who are traders in this market. So as we come back and take a look at the Bitcoin chart here at the 1 hour level, if you were tracking this is the 14th, and you saw this death cross occur, but let's say the 14th. This is where it peaked. If you were at 44,000 there and you sold at 40,000, 44,000, or if you even sold here at the 43,000 and you waited for it to bottom out like it did and buy back in at the $33,000 level, you basically would have seen a 25% increase in your Bitcoin holdings. And that's what some people have done. On the small level, if you had $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, that now you'd have $125,000, $126,000 of Bitcoin. But if you had like $1 million, just doing the math and scaling up, you now would be sitting at 1.2 or $1.3 million worth of Bitcoin. And that's a significant gain in just a matter of a few days. Now, if we take a look at Ethereum, kind of a similar scenario. Ethereum, back around the peak here was at 3,400. It kind of came down before it really dropped off the cliff at 32, and it dropped all the way down to 23. That drop was more like a 40%. So if you would have had $100,000 worth of Ethereum, you'd be now sitting on $140,000 of Ethereum. And this is true. You can look at Dent, you can look at Dot, you can look at Solana, and you can kind of see somewhat of a similar scenario as you look at the charts, because the picture is just about the same all across the board. So let's take a minute and do a quick recap. So basically you got a golden cross and a death cross. And why is it important to understand these? If you are an investor, particularly if you are a trader, these are indicators. The golden cross is an indicator of an upswing in terms of price and a rally up to the upside, where a death cross is just the opposite. It's really a rally to the downside. And as you are watching these moving averages, the 50 and the 200, and the 50 crossing the 200 either down or up, it's important for you to realize that that's beginning to happen and where the price would probably go, and then whether it's a good time for you to sell or a good time for you to buy, or a good time for you to sell and then buy back in. In this particular case, for Bitcoin in the market, this happened around the 14th of January. And so based on history, if it repeats itself sometime around the middle of February, we should start seeing a bottoming out of the Bitcoin price. Maybe it stays at the $35,000 level. Maybe it goes a little bit lower. It's important to kind of watch what it does over the next week in terms of rallying back and forth. And then, follow it and again, watch again for the 50 to cross the 200 on the upside to indicate a strong upswing. For some, this death cross was very negative news, and for some, people lost. But for others, it was a moment of profitability. And if you play this game right as an investor, golden cross, death cross isn't a bad thing or a good thing. It's really a moment of opportunity, and it is something to reinforce your strategy in terms of your trading abilities so that you can benefit whether one or the other occurs. So I hope this was helpful. It was for me. I've been watching this very closely over the past week and have learned a lot, and it is helping me I'm not a day trader, I'm more of a swing trader. So this is definitely a swing trading move, and it has been very beneficial and educational for me in the last week. Again, this is Crypto Novas, where newbies become masters. I am the host, Chris Brown, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Have a great night.